today we are talking about the various associations, institutions, clubs. I'm not 100% sure I know what the collective or what the word is, and I'm certainly sure I don't know what the collective noun for academic institutions is. But it's economists, transport economists, so I guess we can call it a number. There are a number of these institutions that look at various aspects, and we thought it might be helpful if we could prize them apart. I mean that in the nicest sense. If we could work out which one looks at which sorts of things, where their interest lies, because that may help you working out where your interests lie as to which association is the correct association for you, and to at least see where everything is going. I think it's a really, if I may say, I think it's a really helpful tool to have sort of in the background, so at least you know what these various organisations mean. I am today surrounded by not one, not two, not three, but 4 academics. That's about as likely normally, as anybody who knows me will know, that's about as likely as me being surrounded by 4 Collingwood supporters. So it's a very unusual experience for me. I'm feeling completely underqualified. But let me very quickly go round the table, if I may. I'll start with Martin Dresner, who's joining us from Vancouver. He's normally at the University of Maryland. And Martin stands here today representing the ATRS, the Alpha Tango Romeo Sierra. I'm just saying that because it's about aviation. We then have Akam Chesney, and he is here with 2 hats on, one of which you can see, but then his other one is metaphysical, and he's representing both the EACI and GARS. And obviously we will untangle those initials at some later point. I'm then delighted to say that we have Gianmaria Martini, who is representing SOAR. And at least God bless SOAR, they made an effort, and they've got an acronym, and it actually works, and it's connected to aviation through everything about into the semis without dropping a set, if I may say, SOAR straight away. And then we have Erik Verhoef, who represents ITEA, which sounds like the worst knockoff Swedish furniture manufacturer you'll ever find, and he's based in Amsterdam, the University of Amsterdam. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Martin, I kicked off with you, and in alphabetical order, I guess you are next. So if you don't mind me asking, ATRS, what does it stand for? What are you? Are you a society, a club, an association? What are you?
Well, the S does stand for society. So we're the Air Transport Research Society, although the original name was the Air Transport Research Group. And even before that...
You see, there is no correct word.
Even before that, we actually got our start from a large organization called the World Conference on Transport Research Society, the WCTRS, that covers all modes of transportation. And back in the mid-1990s, a group of people from the WCTRS, most notably Professor Taylor from the University of British Columbia, decided that one of the special interest groups from the WCTRS, the one that covered aviation, should sort of forge out on their own and have their own conferences. The WCTRS is a great organization, but they only have a conference once every 3 years, and so Professor Ohm decided that we would have an annual conference. And the first annual conference of the ATRS was held here where I am in Vancouver in 1997. And we've been having, the exception of COVID year, we've been having annual conferences ever since then, covering all aspects of aviation. I know you mentioned transport economics, but we also cover operations and transport law and any other aspect of air transport, aside from aviation policy.
Hang on. 2 things. First of all, are you basically a North American organization, or is it a global organization?
It's definitely a global organization. Our membership and our attendees come probably depending on where we have the conference, but they're mainly come from Europe and Asia, with a smaller number coming from other places, including North America and South America. But we're a global organization. Certainly, we welcome everybody. We're trying to encourage attendees from, say, Africa and Middle East and all parts of the world. We've had our conferences all over the world.
Right. And did I hear you right? Did you say you look at air transport research operations, everything but policy. Is that what you said?
No, including policy and
Including policy.
economics.
Right, sorry.
We have a certainly a large contingent that does air transport economics and policy, but we're not restricted to that. We have people who are looking at operational aspects and air traffic management and all those things as well.
Right. Okay. So I'm coming to you next alphabetically. EACI stands for. Thank you.
This is actually a new institute. It's called the European Aviation Conference Institute. It has just been founded.
It's an institute, ladies and gentlemen.
It's called Institute, and it has the conference in its name. So it's a European Aviation Conference Institute, which has been founded last year. But actually, it is because Martin started talking about history. It also has, although the EACI has been founded last year, it has quite a long history, and it started as the Hamburg Aviation Conferences. And if my understanding is correct, the first one was in 1997, and it is basically, I would say, largely a creation by someone in one of our guests in the room, Hans-Martin Niemeyer. It's not by accident in Hamburg, because Hans-Martin Niemeyer, if I remember correctly, was like a airport regulator, a regulator of the Hamburg airport. And so there were some things, discussions going on with the airport apparently, and then this is how the Hamburg Aviation Conference was created. And later on, it was called the European Aviation Conference. It was the Hamburg Aviation Conference always was held at the Hamburg airport, and I have been attending many of those conferences actually.
They had some very fine speakers over the years. Let me assure you, some very fine speakers.
And I do not only remember the fine speakers. I think one of the issue of the Hamburg Aviation Conference and the European Aviation Conference, and therefore also for the European Aviation Conference Institute, is that it's I would say one of the very good sort of activities that you can do in order to get to come to talk to industry people, to talk to people who not just talk about the industry, but they are in the industry and share their insights with academics. And this is really something that I enjoyed a lot, and I know a lot of other people who also thought that was very inspiring for them. And yeah, I think that is something that talking about the history and how I got there when I just started actually as an academic, for me was a very important source of inspiration, so to say.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. A million questions coming up, of course, but I'm going to have a number of rounds. Let's move on alphabetically to GARS, and Akam, you are also representing GARS today. Geographically, I'm guessing that GARS starts itself off in Germany. Would that be right? GARS stands for?
Well, German Aviation Research Society, and you can see that there is, of course, a close connection between GARS and the EACI, simply because this is like the EACI GARS webinar series of monthly.
You are experiencing it right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. And I think one of the issues I already mentioned, Hans-Martin Niemeyer, and of course he is not only the one of the, I would say, key people for the European Aviation Conference, but of course also for the German Aviation Research Society, or GARS. And I think it has been founded the first one was in 2002. And GARS is a different animal from the European Aviation Conference.
In what way, given the overlap?
Right. And this is, I would say, one of the main activities of GARS is the so-called junior workshop. And the junior workshop is really something that when I was in 2002, I was a PhD student, and I got to GARS, and I got a lot of support sort of from GARS. And this is exactly what the junior workshop. And I think also the main mission of GARS is to sort of get young some young academics, people even at the who study at the bachelor degree, into aviation research, and then inspire them and develop their interest and also their skills to basically do research. I think this is something that is quite special for a special strength, I would say, of GARS.
Does one need to speak German to be in GARS?
That's a very good point. Actually, it's if you want to be an auditor, it's good that you will be able to speak German. But I would say the association as such is actually it's very global. I mean, if you look at the people that are coming to the GARS seminars, the junior workshop, they also have a school and so on and so forth. There are people coming from all over the world, from Australia, from the US, from Canada, from many places. So in that sense, it's actually not very German. And we were thinking about other names, but somehow we stick to GARS. It has been established, but I personally don't like to use the term. I just stick to GARS rather than say the whole name, German Aviation Research Society.
Right. Fair enough. Erik, alphabetically, you're up next. ITEA. What does it stand for? Where's its history? What's its sort of aim? What does it aim at?
That stands for the International Transport Economics Association, and the name is well chosen because that's exactly what it's aiming at.
That'll never catch on, Martin.
Yeah.
Erik, that will never catch on.
No. So this association was established in 2010, but the history goes back a little bit further. The first conference that eventually led up to the establishment of ITEA was held in 2005 in Kumo. That's a place in Finland. And since then, we've had conferences every year, and of course online in the COVID era. One of the specific points, I think also in comparison with the other associations and groups present today, is that ITEA is really aiming at all transport modes, and in fact also beyond. So as you can imagine, for economists, but for other disciplines as well, the interaction, for instance, between transportation systems and spatial development is a very important theme, especially for long-run policy evaluation matters. And that is, for instance, one of the things that's also a recurring theme in ITEA conferences. So all modes, passenger, freight transport, that is all welcome, and that is all among the themes that we address. I think some of the other associations here may also have that, but a very specific characterizing aspect of ITEA meetings is the summer school. ITEA week starts with a summer school where groups of, mainly PhD students of the size of 25 to 30 on average would attend the summer school, and then somewhere on the Wednesday the conference starts, and then of course the idea is, and the hope is, that the students who attend the summer school will also be presenting papers at the conference.
European based?
It is, so it's formally European based, but it's really aiming at being a intercontinental, a global association. And for instance, next year, the meetings will be held at Northwestern near Chicago. We've been to Hong Kong, so although it started in Finland and it has had the majority of meetings in Europe, it's really the aim and also practice to be global.
I hate to correct you, what with you being the academics and me not, but that it's farther than Finland depends entirely on where you start from, surely. Hong Kong being further away isn't true if you're starting from Melbourne, for example. Just saying. Saying. I hate to bring up an academic.
But okay, so this was the historic perspective from the point of the first meeting, and then it's in the other way. Yeah.
fair enough. Now, you've raised a number of topics which I will come to, but before I do that, let me come finally to you, Gianmaria, who, as I say, made an effort and have an organisation that's name is SOAR. What does SOAR stand for, and how do you distinguish yourself from the gentlemen that have come before you?
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So SOAR stands for Symposium on Aviation Research, and but was born after a big European project. Indeed, it was born very recently in 2020. We had we received as a network of academics working in air transportation. We received some funds from the European Commission for a cost project, and it was a long project. It took, if I remember well, 5 years. Actually, Hans Martin may know better because at some point he was really the principal investigator of this project, and a lot of researchers. And so it was really the start of a network, of an academic network. And so at the end of the project, we wanted not all of these people, but some of the people involved there. We wanted to propose, because in this project there were annually a couple of workshops, and we found that these workshops were very useful to develop the different projects, the different research activities. And so we wanted to keep going. And so we started, we were 4 people, 4 organizers, myself, Christian Bontemps from Toulouse School of Economics, Antonio Antunes from the University of Coimbra, and Nicole Adler from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And so we started this workshop that takes place annually. And the characteristics is that it's not an association, so it's free. It's not, we don't, our aim is not to form an association to ask people to pay a fee and so on. And also the workshop is free. So what we do is to try to do an event that takes place annually and gives to the participant the possibility to present their work. With a discussant. So this means that you can have a feedback that is not, let's say, a reaction to what you see, but something that comes from having read at least the paper that you are going to present. And at both stages of the research activity, so maybe at the beginning, so a very early presentation, early stage presentation, or nearby the end of the project, so almost a complete paper to be submitted to a journal. And we have 2 fields, mainly 2 fields, operation research, because 2 of the, let's say, of the organizer are are some leaders in operation research activity, which is Antunes and Adler and Nicole Adler, and economics, because this involves Christian Bontemps and myself.
Right. Okay.
And we have meetings mainly in Europe so far.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, where they were mainly in Europe. We were supposed to have the meeting in this year, 2024, in March. It was supposed to be in Israel, but Nicole wanted to organize it. But as you may imagine, we couldn't do this. So it was in Luxembourg. Next year will be in Italy again, in Bari. And the people that participate are coming from more or less all the world, even though the number is not too big. So we are more or less 30 participants, and clearly the non-Europeans are a small share, no, because the price, the cost of the trip is different. So
okay, so an open question to all of you, but maybe I'll start with you, Gianmaria, and go back around the table the other way. to what extent is your organisation, and I don't mean this in any prerogative sense, but to what extent is your organisation an academic organisation, a closed shop for academics as opposed to practitioners?
Well, regarding SOAR, I would say 100%.
100%. Okay. And so then just a sort of a follow-up on that, and by academics, you mean students or people who actually practice in academia?
Both. There are PhD students, postdocs, and I would say academics already
but less so
permanent jobs. Yes.
Yeah. And Erik, I know you mentioned having a summer school and what have you. What's your answer to that?
It's definitely not a closed shop. So the selection of papers for the conference is on the basis of abstracts, and it's not a criterion whether or not the abstract was submitted from academia or from elsewhere. But of course, not all consultants or all practitioners would have an equal interest in going to a conference that has academic papers, but those who do will be able to present there, and that also happens. And also in the classroom for the summer school, because I'm one of the teachers of the summer school, it's a mix, and of course it varies by year because it also depends on local circumstances. But my uneducated, well, somewhat educated guess was that over the years we've had a 60% PhD filling of the classroom and 40% other individuals who can have all sorts of background.
And one gets into the conference by submitting an
abstract.
An abstract, which is peer reviewed, which needs to be accepted. I mean, it's
that needs to be accepted. So it's an extended abstract, which is a little bit more effort, of course, when preparing and submitting. But what you get in exchange for that is I think a very good program with very, if any, dropouts, because to produce an extended abstract, the paper has to be there in principle already. And it also allows for quality control. And for me personal, but that's just on a personal note, it's good to have a first deadline for a June paper in February when you have to submit the extended abstract. So it helps you to get going on time for your paper, obviously.
Right. And if your paper's good enough, you get a speaker slot.
That's right. Yes.
Right. And then who's the audience?
The audience, I would say that I would say like 80–90% would be academics. I've not, kept the statistics in that sense, and it's coming to think of it, it's not even registered. But there are also, as I say, people who ended up doing consultancy but doing work that meets academic standards can also present.
Yeah, right. But could also attend and learn stuff.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. And so is the conference itself a sort of a speaker at a lectern down the front and everybody sitting as an audience in front of it?
Well, we have some plenary sessions, but most of the program is dedicated to parallel sessions, where at least for me, but again, it's to some extent also a matter of taste, but for me, this is very close to the optimal size of a conference, where the number of parallel sessions that you would have to choose from at any moment would be 3 or 4. So that means that you don't have to run around hopping sessions to see that, selection of papers that you want to see. The sessions are organized on themes, so it's pretty easy to determine your own optimal route through the conference. And with a total attendance of 110, 120 individuals, you can meet people. You don't have to, search around for where is that person that I want to see. And at the same time, it's a nice mass of individuals, I would say.
And we've just missed this year's, or this year's was in June, did you say, or July?
June, and that was in Leeds.
And so where's next year's?
That's Northwestern. So
yes, I do beg your pardon. Yes, I do beg your pardon. Northwestern.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. So Akam, let's talk first about GARS. Is it an academics only organisation? can mugs like me that, you know, got a bare pass degree show up as well?
So first, let me comment on something that Erik said about
Please.
how easy it is to choose which session to attend. I personally think all the sessions are always pretty good. So I do feel it's difficult to pick the right session. And talking to others, I feel that they have have a similar experience. So it's
Well, perhaps it depends. And I should have asked this when Erik said it. When you say you organise it by themes, do you mean the themes are sort of horizontal or vertical? So is it things like aviation versus trains versus roads, or is it sustainability versus connectivity versus what statistics?
Yeah. So at any given moment, you could, for instance, choose between a session on public transport, transport land use interaction, congestion modeling, or behavioral modeling.
Right, so both.
And
the matrix.
Akim, what I mean with relatively easy, we all know the bigger conferences where you have 10 or more parallel sessions to choose from. So it's easier than that. But of course, I think, yeah, it's a good sign, right, that you're spilled for choice, even when there's a selection of 4 alternative
Well,
sessions.
better to be spilled for choice than to be sitting there bored out of your brain. So
Exactly, yeah.
So, and Gianmaria, I should have asked this question of you as well. The symposium that you organise is very much a Socratic sort of symposium. Everyone's expected to join in and discuss simultaneously. Is that what, or is it a speaker audience sort of situation?
Well, no, you mean who can participate to the...
Well, I mean both. Who participates and what's the format?
Okay. Well, we usually send a call to a mailing list that we have. Actually, we send the call usually in the summer for the workshop that takes place in end of winter, beginning of spring of the following year.
So we're talking February, March of each year.
March, I would say March, April.
March, April, yeah.
March,
Northern
April.
Europe. Yeah.
And so it's a normal call for paper. Everybody can submit. We have a look to the number of applications that we receive, proposals, and we usually allow for I would say a dozen, 15 presentation. So
Thank you. So both you, Gianmaria, and you, Erik, it sounds like your content is, if you like, bottom up. You call for papers arrive, you see what's there, you sort of see what comes to the top. Is that a fair summary, or do you say we are specifically looking for papers on the subject of the cost of sustainability, or whatever?
In our case is just an open call, so there is no subject. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same for ITEA, and so the clustering of papers arises naturally because there are big themes that many transportation researchers throughout the world are concerned with, and policymakers alike. So you see that the clustering, but in that sense, it is bottom up. So we are, and of course the only selection is for keynote speakers who will bring their own themes.
Right. So I come then back to both GARS and then, of course, the EACI.
So with GARS, I would say there is a good influence by aviation professionals. And one way of seeing this is, for instance, we had someone from an aviation company, from an airline, actually in the GARS board for a very long time. So he had a PhD, or he has a PhD, and so
we're going to narrow that down very quickly. An airline employee with a PhD, there can't be many.
Yeah, but there was one, and
obviously there's one.
Yeah, and so this is to sort of illustrate that actually we kind of, I think we encourage aviation professionals to sort of participate and, for instance, comment on papers. Gianmaria mentioned that one important aspect of SOAR is actually to have discussants, and that's also something that I think is an important feature of the GARS Junior Workshop. So the GARS Junior Workshop, we also have the whether it's a bachelor or master or PhD student presenting. And then typically a much more senior person, which could be an academic, but also an aviation professional, commenting on this work.
So how do you? So Erik's system and Gianmaria's, I get, you know, this is an academic process. We put out a call for papers. People submit things. How do you? Speaking here as an aviation industry professional, that's not something I regularly monitor to see if anyone's interested in me writing a paper. So how do you attract the attention of the non-academic? This is an open question.
So that is so. How do we? I do believe that the people that we're collaborating with, they are just. I think they may be a little bit. They may be like you, Andrew, just interested in also and open to discussing and perhaps even a little bit learn from academics. And of course, then it goes both ways. And this is actually something that I appreciate. And the older I get, and you know, you can see from my gray hair that I'm not the youngest anymore, I think the more I appreciate it. And I think this is something that really is encouraged by and also supported and try to, you know, to manage by GARS.
Right. Okay. And so then, and to the extent it's different from the EACI, what's top down or bottom up?
Yeah, this is I think I like this top down, bottom up kind of way of describing the different approaches, because I think here the European Aviation Conference, I would say, first of all, to be accurate, I think there are 3 days, and one of the 3 days is what we call now, we had different names for it in the past, but right now we call it a research day, is kind of more of the type of ITEA, ATRS, SOAR type, but if I remember correctly, no discussants. So parallel sessions and bottom up. But the main conference, like the 2 days, they are really much more top down. So there is a topic that the EACI, or in the past, the EAC board thought would be important. And then, for instance, last year it was air cargo. And then, you know, try to develop a program that is bringing academics as well as aviation professionals together, talking and discussing in a panel, and then, you know, the different issues associated with this particular topic from the different perspectives. And I think this is really a format that I also feel actually, and from my understanding, from the feedback that I hear from friends and colleagues, is also very, very, very inspiring.
Well, it's quite, I mean, it is quite different to the others we've so far discussed, though, isn't it? To say, here's what we think needs to be talked about, or here is a topic we think is of interest. Do you find that the academics respond to that? Does
yes,
the EACA, you know, saying this year we're talking cargo, does that mean all of a sudden there's a plethora of cargo papers?
I don't, you know, speaking as an academic, I'm always very slow. Erik is very fast, and others here in the room are very fast. I'm pretty slow, and I think in average, academics are not responding that quickly. So from the point of inspiration to the product of a published paper may easily be taking, I don't know, you can tell me, but I would say 5 years is maybe an okay estimate, maybe a little bit somewhat faster. So
you can't rush brilliance. You can't rush brilliance.
So yeah, but for what I would say, at least from my own perspective, from this conference, actually I can say that now I think much more air cargo than I did before.
There's a joke there, but I'm not touching it. And Martin, you've been very patient. Let me ask you the same question: top down, bottom up. How do you generate your annual meeting? Is it an annual only meeting? Is it, you know, a symposium? Is it a lectern and an audience? All those questions, you've heard them all before.
Sure. So we put out a call for papers as well, or a call for abstracts, actually.
A call
And
for abstracts, right? Yeah.
yes, and so those abstracts are reviewed, and we're a little bit maybe bigger than some of these other organizations, in that we'll have maybe about 300 attendees, sometimes more, especially if the conference is in Europe. It tends to be a little bit larger, 350, I think, this year.
Wow.
And so the bulk of the conference are these parallel sessions in which papers are presented, but we also have keynote sessions. The keynote sessions are decided sort of top down. We will have actually Gianmaria was in charge of the keynote sessions, and we decided on both academic keynote speakers and also keynote speakers from industry. And then we also had an online component and a physical component, and so we had keynote speakers and parallel sessions both online and in person. So it's a sort of a complicated conference. We also do a bit of a summer school, not as long as the one that ITEA does, but we do a sort of a half-day summer school, and we had another feature of Meet the Faculty that Gianmaria organized, where the early researchers, doctoral students could have one-on-one sessions with faculty members. And then we do another thing, which is airport benchmarking. And so for the last 20 years, we've conducted a sort of benchmarking of efficiency of airports around the world. And we present awards to the most efficient airports. And then we get representatives from the airports to come, and they come and accept their awards. And they typically either give speeches or appear on panels discussing sort of airport operations. And so we have this industry component then through this airport efficiency studies that we do, and we're sort of in the process of expanding it to an airport airline benchmarking as well, and we'll see whether that comes off. But if it does, we'll have hopefully something similar for airlines as well as the airports.
I can imagine it took quite some fine-tuning, many years of academic discussion to work out how one benchmarks an airport, and that would be a walk-up start compared to how one benchmarks an airline, I suspect.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, there's if there's 3 academics in the room, they're going to have 3 ideas about how one goes about doing this.
And that's if there's only one window. So which is, for 2 questions. First of all, if you told me, I apologize because I've forgotten, but where was your meeting this year?
Our meeting this year was in Lisbon.
Lisbon, I've heard of Lisbon, right? Okay, so I'm pleased to hear that, because it means I hadn't asked you previously. And it's in June, July, that sort of time frame?
Yeah, we usually have it the beginning of July, although it can vary a bit. Sometimes the end of June, sometimes the middle of July. Next year, we're going to be in Hong Kong, hosted by Achim's institution, Hong Kong Polytechnic University. It's going to be the beginning of July as well. And so that's typically the time that we have it. We try to at least think about some of these other organizations like ITEA, when they're having their conference, so that we try to best avoid conflicts among these organizations, because many of us attend several of these. We're all friends, and we see value in attending all the organizational meetings, not just the ones that we're representing here today.
Right. Good. Well, I'm pleased to hear that. It would be awful if you were enemies, wouldn't it? And you were all in competing streams. That would be a less than optimal outcome, I suspect. So you didn't answer my question. Which is the most efficient airport?
I don't remember
But
we actually we used to come out with a one most efficient airport, and we did get some criticism for this, saying that around the different areas of the world, there's different rules and regulations and regulatory structures. And so we actually do it on a regional basis. So we have a most efficient airport in the US and in Europe and in Asia. And then we also do it according to sizes of the airport. So we'll have a most efficient large airport, medium-sized airport, small airport. We're also thinking about these days about how we can add more measures of sustainability into our measures of airport efficiency, because it's one thing to be efficient, it's another thing to be efficient and sustainable. And so we want to think about both of those things.
I think I'm feeling a matrix coming on, by the way. And well, good luck with the airport, the airline one. I can imagine that's going to be significantly more complicated to do. I mean, it must, though, however, produce enormous amounts of grist for the academic mill, I don't doubt, to try to design it and then refine it as things go on.
You know, it's sort of interesting about the airport benchmarking that's been going on for 20 years, and that some of the airports, you know, ignore us, but some of them take this very seriously, and they're very happy that they get these awards, and they come and they accept the awards. And we've, you know, we've developed pretty good relationships with various airports over the years, and who really value the studies. And it's a bit of a business too, that will sell the reports and the data, and they're very interested in taking a look at the reports and the data, and they buy it from us. So you know, even, you know, some very successful airports have been, you know, some of the people most interested in this study, including you know, the airport in Atlanta, which is, you know, built itself as the largest airport in the world.
Well, busiest. You said something that I really want to move on, but I can't not ask this question. You said you sell the data to people.
Right. So, yeah. So the actual benchmarking is done at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, under the supervision of one of the ATRS executive committee members, Dr. Chanyan Yu. And so she's been doing this for many years. And so sort of in our agreement with Embry-Riddle, they basically do this benchmarking, and they will advertise and market their reports, and also the data that they've collected, and sell it to individuals who want to take a look at the data or the reports in more detail.
Right. Okay. So we're running out of time. Before everyone joined, I should say, Martin said, I don't think we'll have any trouble. 4 academics, we won't have too much trouble filling in the time. We're rapidly running out of time. But a topic I really want to focus on a little bit more is the student aspect, the summer school, to what extent would you be encouraging students to become interested in what you do? How do you keep them engaged? Are there prizes for the best paper? Things like that. So why don't we start, maybe Erik, with you this time, just because that's where you're sitting on my screen at the moment. But how does that all come together?
Yeah, so I think the commitment of ITEA to be really attractive to junior academics and to students, that is shown in half of the week being dedicated to the summer school. So that includes, well, please don't check me on the exact number, but let's say like 10 lectures. But there are also sessions where students can discuss their research with seniors. So very interactive, and to the extent that it's reliable, the evaluations are often always very, very positive. So students really like it. And of course, that is good. That's good to hear, and it also makes it worth the effort. And otherwise, because you mentioned the awards, ITEA has 2 yearly awards. So we have awards not for persons but for papers, and there's one junior award, and there's one overall award, which can also be won by a junior person for that reason. But
where junior is defined as?
Oh, that's a very good question. I knew that at some point there would be a question where I would not know the answer from the top of my head.
Obviously, I'm interested because, you know, I'm hoping to get.
Yeah, well, so I think you would qualify. It's like 30 or 35, but the details.
Walk up start.
Yeah, no, but so that's, or it may be still working on the PhD. So when you continue with the other associations, I can look up the exact.
Okay, all right.
Because I think it's important, because it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Akram, what's the sort of student involvement for both GARS and the EACI?
So talk about GARS first. So the way we define junior or PhD student is actually by the time So it must have been a paper that has been part of the PhD thesis, but it could have been published later on. So very often we kind of finish a thesis, but the papers are not all published yet. So maybe after you graduate, you publish a paper, but then this could still be qualifying as a PhD paper, so to say.
Right.
That is one way we do this. I think there is something special here when it comes to GARS, and this is something that we have. It's called the Hartmut Wolf Scholarship. Hartmut Wolf is someone everyone who has been involved in the early years of GARS knows him. He is a very nice person who unfortunately passed away way too early. So he has always been very active in, for instance, discussing papers, but also contributing to the research, aviation research, basically. And so we decided to call it the Hartmut Wolf Scholarship, which is something that basically we as an association our members, they pay a membership fee, which is pretty low. I think right now students pay like 25. But if you have an institutional member, I'm talking about euros, not Hong Kong dollars or something, euros. If you are an institutional member, and for instance, my department is an institutional member, I think we pay like 300 or something. So the payments are relatively, the fees are relatively low, but but there's still something. We collect some money, and we're trying to use that, for instance, to subsidize actually students. For instance, bachelor students who may not be having a budget for traveling, to cover part of their travel costs, to then participate in the junior workshop, present their work, and get some feedback from senior people.
Right. Okay. And then for the EACI also has a summer school, I think, doesn't it?
That's actually
I wish I hadn't said that. It certainly has. It has a day at the conference.
This is what we call like the research day,
Research,
and it's more like this. It's more like this parallel sessions constructs. Though we also have like a keynote session there, but not to my knowledge, I don't remember a school. The school thing is more for GARS actually, and it's also quite a long school. I mean, this year we have been in Antwerp. We had almost, I think, like 2 days full of presentations by people who have some having a much stronger background in academics, but also some having a much stronger background in managing, basically, for instance, airlines or some other aviation companies, and then teaching their insights to the young students. We also have, yep.
But that school, which is a GARS school or an EACI school?
I would call it GARS school.
GARS, okay, thank you. And indeed, a question then equally to you, Martin and Erik, since we've already talked about the schools. If I was a student of law, or if I was a student of airline management, would I be equally invited, or do I have to be a student of economics? First you, Akam, and then Erik, and then Martin.
Oh, I see. I think we welcome everyone who is interested in joining. I mean, I think something that really matters. I think that something that unites us as people joining in. I think it's true for all the associations we're talking, is kind of passion for the topics that we're covering and the kind of research that we are doing. And I think if someone is interested in what we're doing, well, we are very happy and welcome everyone to comment and share their thoughts and get their feedback, and try to learn from them, and hoping that they also learn something from us, and that mutually sort of we can improve.
Right. Erik, that the case for you as well?
Yeah, in principle, yes. So for the summer school, we also see students from a different disciplinary backgrounds than economics, and then of course, because the summer school, there's also technical economics, so there would be students with some knowledge of mathematics. Engineers is a good example there, but there is no let's say, police that looks at, you know, the disciplines, and that only people with economics backgrounds or business backgrounds would be welcome. But of course, there's self-selection
Right.
going on. I can also update you on the requirements.
Thank you.
What-
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw you there.
So when submitting papers, people self-select if they wish to be eligible for a prize, be it junior or overall. They can self-select into categories, and for junior, the hard requirement is that the PhD cannot be earned more than 4 years ago.
Right.
So technically, you might submit, but then if you include your CV, it might be, you know, raise eyebrows why you would not go for the overall.
But the good news from my side is that I am still in the hunt, because my PhD is yet to be
Exactly. Yeah.
But also another little feature I think of ITEA is you have a journal, don't you?
Yes, that's right. I was hoping that you would ask about that. So that's also one of the great assets, I should say. But I should be a little bit modest because I've been involved in the journal as well as one of the inaugural editors.
Well, don't be so modest as to not tell us its name. What's it called?
It's called Economics of Transportation.
Must have been up all night thinking of that. Must have been up all night thinking of that.
Yeah. So the journal was established in 2012, and it does exactly what its what its name promises to do. Again, it is not meant exclusively for economics papers, but it can be papers that are of interest to economics because it's crossing boundaries of disciplines with a clear implications for economics. But as the title says, it is economics is the let's say the home discipline for this journal. And it's been establishing, I think, a good reputation over the years. And one of the benefits of being a member of the association, besides it giving a discount on the registration fee for the conference, is that it comes along with a free membership of the journal. And especially for those who are not in academia, so for those who would not have direct access to all academic journals, this can be an important benefit, I would say.
So you pay your subscription and then you get a free subscription, and then you get a free copy of the journal.
That's right.
You get a free receipt as well, just out of interest.
Free receipt for what?
I'm sorry. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's all that free. If I've had to pay my subscription to join the
conference, yeah.
I mean, it does sound like I'm getting a free receipt.
Yeah.
Martin, I'm right, am I not, on the matter of journals? I'm right, am I not, that you too have a journal?
Right. We recently started a journal, the Journal of the Air Transport Research Society. Again, I'm sure you'll appreciate the name, you know, so the JATRS. And we typically have had special issues that come out of our conference. And we thought that one of the sort of benefits that we could give to our you know, those who submit their papers for these special issues was to have our own in-house journal, the journal, the ATRS. And so we're going to use that journal as one of the venues for papers that come out of the conference special issues, but we also will choose other journals as well for those special issues. But yes, we do have our journal. Right. We also have prizes, by the way.
Okay, very quickly, because I still
for a conference, we have a best paper award. We have a best student paper award where the lead author has to be a student. And we also have a prize that is sponsored by the Japan Transport and Tourism Research Institute. So all these 3 prizes are for $1,000 US.
Wow. Wow. That's an impressive number. Sponsored by the Japan
Transport and Tourism Research Institute, JITRI.
Woohoo. How about that? How about that? How very interesting. Thank you. Gianmaria, students, not students, academics only?
Well, we are open. I would say, well, let me just say one point. I mean, I think it's coming out also from the discussion that I think one very good thing in our community, let's say, is that we are not competing among each other, but we try to provide, let's say, something that is a different product, no? So it's a different opportunity to the people that are interested in working in transportation or air transportation. No, so for instance, why is SOAR good for students, and a student of law could participate or not? Yes, it's open. It's good for students, I would say, especially for students that are already doing some research activities. So they are involved either in a PhD program, or they are working as a postdoc after completing the PhD to try to publish the paper. So to ending up at the more high quality level, the papers for some academic journals. And why is this a good, what is different from the other thing? We don't do any school, but also we invite 2 keynote speakers, and we have a small size group without any fee, no, to participate. So why a young person should come? Because it's an opportunity to stay 2 days with some senior people, some academic leaders, and that's very good, because one of the most important factors in our profession is the possibility to develop a relationship, a network. And so I think that this is I mean, we don't offer any prize, but what we can offer is exactly, I would say, this, let's say, good quality, small size, and so strong possibility of relationship and developing the network event to young people.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me try, if I can, to very quickly summarize. There are a variety of ways in which you can further your interest if you're a student in transport economics and aviation economics, extend that study beyond the actual, hardline economics only. You've got opportunities with all of these organisations to meet other professionals and other people in your field. You may even end up getting published, which would be a good thing, I'm sure. And I happen to know, because I've got it written down in front of me, that for everyone except for ITEA and for SOAR, you'll find them on LinkedIn. But for ITEA, you'll find on Facebook, and SOAR, you're going to have to just dig around and find someone who knows someone who knows someone, who knock on the door 3 times with a special knock, and you'll be allowed in if you've got the secret handshake. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for your attendance, and thank you for paying attention. Let me, I'm sure, ask you to join me in thanking Martin, Akim, Gianmaria, and Erik for what I think was a really interesting conversation. I wish we'd had more time to talk about some of the various things, and I wish I had enough time to get to all of these conferences. That would be really fantastic. So next month, ladies and gentlemen, we are convening at our regular time of 1300, at least I believe so, on Monday the 30th of September, keeping to our strict rule of the last Monday in every month. Monday the 30th of September, and I think there's been a bit of a change inside the house, but I think we're talking, are we not, Akam? We're talking about
commercialization of eVTOL businesces.
Yes, what is the business case for eVTOLs and AAM? Something aerial mobility, advanced aerial mobility. So thank you again, everyone, and thanks so much to the panelists. I think that was a really interesting conversation, and I look forward to seeing you next month. I wish you all a very good day.